So thank you, Stephen, for inviting me to talk about our work. So Lure is a prototype for a quite large music theatrical endeavor. So basically, I should tell you I'm a composer. I'm a composer and theater maker from Munich in Germany. And I do mix orchestra, singers, technology, and in 2017 we created what we love to call the first augmented reality opera in nearby Munich. And for a few years we are trying to create this large operatic thing called Parzival around this basic question: is it possible to install a learning machine as the protagonist of an interactive music theater? And as a story framework, we use the old legend of Parzival, a medieval character who grew up in the forest, raised by his mother, protected from civilization. He then meets three knights and becomes excited and curious to where these knights come from, and eventually leaves his mother and the forest to look for the Holy Grail. And in our version, Parzival.ai is a machine, and it is raised, isolated from civilization in the computer lab. In our performance, it meets the audience and gets excited, gets curious, and eventually leaves the hall to learn about and understand the human attributes. So that's how we imagine it. It's mixing orchestra and audience together. So there is no opposition. They all share the same space, and the space is full of a variety of connections between man and machine. So you see musicians playing from screens, having an interaction going on between machine and musician. The audience can talk and interact with the musicians, and through the musicians can connect to the machine, and so on. So it's a quite large thing, and one of the very basic and important goals we have is to get a better understanding of artificial intelligence by making the learning process of the machine tangible, to let the audience experience how the machine learns, to actually incorporate the audience into the learning process of the machine. So we want the machine to learn from the audience, and the audience to realize that they are part of the learning process. So one of the very important inspirations you see here is the work of Nemo Akten, Turkish-English computer artist, part of the foundational team of Parzival. And here it's a machine trying to interpret what it's seeing through the webcam. It's a large project, and we were able to at least fund a first round of research and development last year, which led to an open studio performance in November. We called it Lure, and it's really a prototype for a variety of facets of ideas we bring together here. It was supposed to happen in the theater in the physical space. Due to COVID, we eventually couldn't do that. What we didn't want to do is to create the thing in the physical space and then just have a camera and stream that. And through that, the Allure became also a prototype for one possibility of digital theater. So if theater is a meeting of people in the physical space to experience a story, then the question is, if we can't access the physical space, what could the digital space be? How can we use the meeting of people in the digital space use theatrically? So at the heart of our performance was not the physical space through a camera, but the actual digital space. We all know by these Zoom meetings. So that's actually our team. And we gathered people and audience around a fire. The fire as the basic foundation of storytelling. Humans gathering together in the evening around the fire and telling the stories. Then we have the masks, which have always been part of theater, and you enter the space through the Zoom call and wear a mask and gather around the fire. Formally, technically, artistically, that's really the basic feedback loop we use in a variety of interpretations. So there's a human, in this case, a musician. There's a machine, in this case, represented on a screen. And in this case, it's about a music performer interpreting a score, which is generated by the machine. So imagine here a score being displayed on the screen. The musician plays the score, or does not play it, like deviates from it. The score generating machine learns from the interpretation of the musician and produces different output. And this feedback loop is a constructive one, is a productive one, and and is not only observed by the audience members, but also the audience members are also part of this feedback loop. That's a theoretical conceptual model for a lot of details in this performance. Notable collaboration, a very important collaboration, is with the three computer scientists, machine learning experts of the Volkswagen Machine Learning Basic Research Lab, arcmax.ai. I put it in the chat. I'm getting confused with my mouse. So this is a research lab run by Volkswagen, but independent from the product development. And together with them, we developed a machine which is performing a drum battle with our drummer. I would now walk through the video. So the video actually in full is available on the website emler.art. The performance was actually a streaming of this video. So live and commented. We used it also the chat, and So we start by approaching the fire, seeing the fire in a little more distant, and then we have the sound we all know when entering a Zoom meeting, and that's where the audience members come in. Now I will look. Here's a volume control. That's very good. Then the storyteller.
Parzival runs through the forest. The forest begins to become, suddenly, very bright. There are wonderful sunspots with white, golden lights that sweep across the dark ground. The forest becomes filled with little white birds singing on the ground. It is the beginning of the end. There is a mysterious life here. Parzival wants to know things that have never been told before. He wants to know how, why, and how to go back to the days when men went to sleep at night and women played with fire.
So what you're hearing now, the text I have written while during the video. Do you hear me now well?
A frog lies on his back on the rock.
His legs I just see the comments. So, double narrator. Yeah, that's probably because you hear the narration through my own speakers. Well, I will take care later. So the text you're hearing now is generated, co-created together with a GPT-2 language model for the nerds out there. And the language model is trained on Gothic British literature, so think Frankenstein, Wuthering Heights, and prompted by Parzival. So sentences from Parzival, but then I like calling it a distortion, distorted through this corpus of British Romantic literature. And I combined original Parzival text together with this GPT-2 output.
Parzival runs after him, himself a jumping animal. He climbs nimbly a tree, hangs in the branches, heavy with honey drops. He hangs there still for a minute or two, eating the sweets, watching and laughing. Then he rises again and walks in the road he came in. He wanders to and from the main path for a while, and then again wanders to and from the end to end. No answer, max answer, equals none. Stop. He listens to a bird.
Next to the British literature, I used also another model trained on its own code. So actually, I trained the language model on its own Python code. So that's when you hear these code-like sentences. And I chose, by purpose, a German actress talking English because I just love the accent of these artificial pioneers like Jürgen Schmidhuber.
Chirps and shrieks with a superhuman efficiency.
Sorry, my fault.
The whole forest is vibrating with the cries of birds in millions of answers. The song. And you raise the curtains with anxious eagerness.
So that's the first meeting of the machine with human, and Parzival being raised away from civilization in the forest in this old medieval legend. He's actually, it's been told that he's able to speak with the birds. So he knows how to talk with the birds. And what we prototyped here is the main thing we prototyped here is a representation, a visualization of the human-machine feedback loop. So audience actually is able to understand input and output. So the singing of the singer is displayed in blue, analyzed, measured, displayed in blue, and the output of the machine is orange. For a later development stage, you can imagine that so here's actually no machine actually really reacting. It's just a duet between machine and human. But imagine that the machine would actually react on the singing, would learn from the singing. So the machine would produce a score. The singer interprets what it's been showed on the score or deviates from that, and the machine can learn from that and adjust its output. And then we go on to the other side of the next storytelling,
but not shiny. The clouds, as was natural, had flown.
So our little open studio performance is divided in the story framing, artistic prototypes. The fire itself is a totally theatrical thing. It's built from, I don't know the English word, bate, and lights, as you can clearly see. What we love is the ambiguity here when we see that. So the texture of the material, where I at least, I see more like organic texture from inside our body. This is something I really like. So now we are in the text. It's about meeting with the night.
That's so non-linear. It couldn't have been human. So we assume that the sequence is not collinear, but does not contain a single segment. Why do we hide from the humans? If you get among humans, don't be too fast with your questions. They're quite bad to be mean. Why? Don't be careful with your hands, or you hurt yourself. You have lived in the forest long enough. You've seen good and evil, right and wrong. Now you can go back. Come, follow me. It's the only way out. It's just natural. They will kill you.
So you get that the text is quite surreal and absurd. That's actually a quality I really like. So GPT-2 is not the latest model in language generation, text generation. We have a later one, GPT-3. And in a way, I find that actually more boring because it's better, like more normal. Usually in the arts, we don't want normal. The music you heard, by the way, is composed by ICYMI, which is an artificial intelligence composition tool. And now we are in the battle, in the drum battle between drummer and machine. So what is a drum battle? It's two drummers improvising together, and it's a question-answer thing. 4 bars, drummer 1, 4 bars, drummer 2. Can also do it with guitarists or keyboards or whatever, but you just go back and forth, 4 bars, 4 bars, 4 bars. And here we have a drum battle between drummer and machine. So what is going on in here? This is an actual machine, an actual so-called AI. We don't like using the term. And it's the corpus is built from, it's actually for the ones who are a bit more into the subject, there's this Groove corpus published by Google Magenta. We use that one. So it's hours of drum playing, of rock and pop drum playing, and this is the training set, the corpus for the model developed by Argmax. And the drummer is playing 2 bars, and the model compares these 2 bars to its training set and finds the closest, the most similar point in its latent space. So on the right-hand side, you see that's basically one of the possible representations of the corpus, the latent space. And I think the blue dots are input, and then the model chooses 2 bars from its corpus and plays that as a response, as an answer. And we have sliders which we tuned and perform also during the improvisation. For example, should the output be as similar as possible to the input, or should it be like totally like contrast? And again, coming from the Parzival story, it's the meeting between machine and a human being. So, and in the Parzival story, the knights who meet Parzival, they're very condescending. So Parzival is this stupid little guy, and in a way we see that here too. So the drummer is constantly trying to challenge the machine. He plays odd rhythms, he plays odd meters, and the machine is, because of its main training on rock and pop 4/4 music, responding in a way less complex way. Not here anymore. Sure, Stephen, I will go through some more points. So then another text passage, and then there's actual live interaction between the machine and you as an audience member. You can do it right now if you want. If you go to learn.bsqd.me, that's then you're connected to a chatbot. And this chatbot is half scripted and half indeed connected to the very GPT-2 model, which I used for generating the text. So you are, through this chatbot, you are able to talk with the GPT-2 model. And so it's the third encounter between machine and humans, in this case, you. And it leads to the very important question, what does it look like where you come from? And you describe it like, in the moment, I would say it's dark outside and a very ugly schoolyard. And I would put that in as a phrase. And the Parzival bot would, hey, Patrick, the Parzival bot will use that as a search query for Google image search. It will look for images and collects those images and builds a corpus from that. So it will train itself. It will try to get an understanding, a visual understanding of the world, which it doesn't know yet, by asking you for descriptions, collecting images and building a corpus of that and training a pix-to-pix model. And with this pix-to-pix model, so the training we do here, so it uses all the images coming in, translate that into one-dimensional pictures, and in the end leaves the space. So now it uses a corpus comprised of fire image, leaves the space, and drives into the world, but is only able to see the world through fire.
So Matthias, I know that Elsa and Patrick are in the audience as well, and I want to make sure that we get to hear from them if we have some questions.
Yes, so let me introduce you to those .me. That's the link for the chatbot. So I welcome Elsa, who's the dramaturg of our piece, and Patrick van der Smacht, who is running the machine learning basic research lab at Volkswagen, and I'm happy he's here. So we can talk about collaborating between scientists and artists and theater and machines, and yeah, we have some time. Oh yeah, it's late. I missed. Sorry. Any questions?
Well, I certainly have one.
Please.
You know, at the risk of saying something that's controversial, it's hard to say that COVID has been good for anything. And it's certainly been very hard for big classes of artists that are performers. It feels to me like it's focused your work in a really interesting way.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it really did. So we originally planned for it to be happening at a physical space with actual audience there, actually gathering around the fire, but being forced to use the digital space, I think really somehow I think somehow we benefited from it, because we really had to think about using the digital space for the digital character, and really creating something as an online experience, other than just live streaming something that is meant to be for a real space, for an actual space. And
So it's hard to say that we benefited from it, but I think we were, of course, when we had to cancel our performance, it was, we were, well, it disturbed like our process, and we really had to think new what we will be doing with this, because we all had the feeling that we don't want to watch any more live stream performances, and we were quite bored by a lot of it. So we tried to create something that is really for the digital space, and is an experience that you really enjoy.
So get in a time machine. It's now a year from now, or 18 months or 2 years. COVID is banished from the earth. Will your work go back, or will this be part going forward?
I could see it both, actually.
Yes, definitely. I totally agree. It was a very pleasant surprise that it was so interesting to explore this digital space. But as I'm right now rehearsing again in the physical theater, I also realize we are missing a lot out if we don't use the physical space. But there's a lot to explore in both worlds.
By the way, we have time for a couple of audience questions. If you want to just jump into one of these 3 boxes next to me, I'll call you up.
Where are the computer scientists?
"30 quiet people?" We have 30 quiet people? That's very funny.
Yeah. Talk to death.
It's very funny. I mean, I have 1,000 questions I can keep asking, but I'd prefer to have the audience get engaged. So I'm going to pause.
Well, maybe go ahead.
Were there audience members that had negative reactions? Were there people that said, "I've tried this and I don't like it"?
Is it?
I don't think someone said I don't like it, but I think a few of them thought that the communication with the bot was more a gimmick or something, not really, something that is contributing to the experience. But I think we were actually surprised how positive the feedback was. Of course, we liked what we did, but we know from some people who are not really into the digital storytelling, the digital performance art, or even not really into the digital as a whole. And a lot of them said that they were surprised how immersive the experience was, and how close to a experience in a physical spape.
So there's a couple of questions in the chat. One is,
I would like to add something very important to that, because I don't remember anything particularly negative, but one thing which came up also in our internal discussions a lot is about the complexity of such an endeavor. If you take the whole subject very seriously, you end up with so much thoughts and material, and that the whole thing becomes quite complex, and in a way for many people not really comprehensible. And that's something people felt overwhelmed, but at the same time, if they did, they still felt engaged, and that was an interesting experience.
Okay, Roger Thomas asked, what drove your platform choice?
What is that? TD in Neuron? I don't know that.
I don't either. Or Max MSP.
Yeah.
But
so there was no one platform. So we used Runway ML. We used custom website stuff. We used Max MSP to interface. So what you saw on the Maximum SP window was just the MIDI front end to connect to the machine. So yeah, there were a lot of a diversity of elements involved.
And do we want to include Patrick? I see he's here, but maybe he doesn't want to join.
Patrick, you have to click one of those three question mark things below the chat window. Yeah.
There you are.
Now you hear me.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Okay. I just went down for the last 20 seconds. So I don't know TD Neuron or MaxMSP. I don't know what it is. The part the people in my lab did was related to the drum session. And there we used a variational autoencoder, actually a time series a variant of a variational autoencoder, which is a set of probabilistic neural networks, which were programmed in this case in TensorFlow environment. And the system works by listening to what a drummer does, using that as an input to the neural network, and that then predicts likely next steps in there, and then plays those. So you have a back and forth between the machine and the drummer. So TD Neuron, MaxMSP are not things that I am aware of in my research.
Yeah, MSP is that thing I used as an interface between the drummer and your internet stuff.
Right. Okay.
All right. Well, we are just about out of time, so I'm going to make an announcement to the entire group. Hey, everybody. Demo session 1 is wrapping up. So we are going to use our transporter room from the holodeck and send everyone to demo menu 2, where they can choose their next demo. A reminder for people that are joining us for the first time. Of course, thank you. Right. Applause for the people in my room who did a fantastic job. Thank you, Laura, very much.
Thank you.